What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about why A Plague Tale Requiem is my game of the year. So this is kind of a part two to a video I did where I ranked every single new game I played in 2022. If you haven't checked that video out, very important for the fact that it's actually one of the biggest, if not the biggest video I've ever made. But also, at the very end, crowning a number one means I crowned a game of the year. And it was, it was a tight, I would say, finish, right? Top 6, 7 games of the year. Pretty darn good. But number one, really, with Plague Tale, was the game to beat ever since I played the game. Now, and I said it there, I'll say it here just for transparency's sake, they did give me a review code for this game. It was something that, I'll be also very honest, I was hoping to get with the channel growing this year. I was thinking, man, I loved Innocence, Plague Tale Innocence. I love that game so much. Requiem always looked, from everything, the gameplay trailer, the story trailer, the trailers, and just everything about this game looked insane. And so I was hoping, maybe could I get a code a few weeks early? And I did. But that had nothing to do with it being the best game of the year. It got the best game of the year because it was, to me, the best game of the year. It was different, and that did help. I will say God of War Ragnarok was an incredible game. That was my second favorite game of the year, but it was a continuation of God of War, which is fine. That's what it was going to be, right? No problem there. But A Plague Tale Requiem did everything the first game did and then turned it up to 100, right? Visuals jumped through the roof. Gameplay. The gameplay in the first game is very restrictive and, partially on purpose. Actually, I would say because of the themes of the game, I'm going to give it actually more credit than that. The first game, Amicia is not a warrior. She's not a battle-hardened person. And there's a theme there that actually plays in Requiem so well. Now she is a lot more familiar with these weapons. She has to do these things. She's a little bit older. It makes actual sense, I'd say, inside the world why she's able to do more. And they translate it in the game. I mean, from a game perspective, it's just small team, small game. They didn't expect it to probably become a franchise. Those are the real reasons, but the game itself actually has reasons, and that's just a small thing, right? But that already makes it stand out to me. Again, visually, I mean, my dear Jesus, there's been some phenomenal looking games. A lot of people are crowning, and I do agree with this, Horizon Forbidden West probably is, it's one of the better looking games of all time. And even being an open world game, holy smokes, the game does look insane. Also for being a cross-gen game, right? The fact that it could also be played on PS4. Horizon maybe is the game to beat. Plague Tale looks incredible. The visuals from their faces, right? The actual facial animations, the water. I'm a gigantic fan of water. The environment, everything in this game looks incredible. Whether it's a cutscene or whether it's you're just, in the game, you're playing around. It looks insane. And the facial things are very important because this game, I would say, carried is a tough word. Is this game carried by the performance / the story and the character arcs? I don't know, because I do think there's actually some very clever combat and some, gameplay mechanics in this game. I would say the game, what makes it my game of the year, probably is the story, probably is Amicia, probably is the characters. So let's focus a little bit on them as well. And again, using visuals to kind of lead into that, because I don't think the game works with the visuals of the first game. Now, the first game did look actually pretty darn good, but you look at the jump and what they have these characters going through, and I'm going to, specifically label Amicia here. I've said this before. Amicia is incredible. She is one of the best gaming characters, I think, of all time. Not because of Innocence. Innocence was kind of the building block, the foundation. Going into this game, I didn't care about her all that much. I've been very clear about that. I actually made a video separately back when Requiem came out, and the video was why I do believe Amicia is one of the best characters ever created. Because her arc, I do think, is phenomenal. I think her voice actress, Charlotte, who was nominated actually for, Actor of the Year, and Christopher Judge won, I really think she deserved it because she's actually very young as well. I think she's like 20 years old. Very young, but incredibly good, and she sells it. She sells the emotion. Now actually I believe it's a different person that does the motion capture, and then it's her that does just the acting lines. So they both deserve credit because they do phenomenal. Amicia is so believable, and I talked about it in that video, but what she goes through and the fact that modern day Hollywood, modern day games, making these characters invincible, or if you're trying to prove a point with underrepresented groups, right? You may make them like invincible, or you may make them do things and stretch the imagination of like, well, these characters can do these things just because. Amicia, being the character that she is perfect because she actually goes through things. She has an arc. She does things not because she wants to, but because she needs to. She literally can't not do it, or she's going to lose Hugo, she'll die, something horrible will happen. She needs to do the things that she does. She feels pain. She gets injured so much in this game and gets defeated. This is not a character that's unbeatable. This is not a character that goes through the entire game and cannot be taken down and is just better than everybody just because. No, she grows. And not even does she grow, she fails. She needs others to help her sometimes. She can't do everything on her own. She fails, she gets back up, and she keeps going. That is a strong character. And I spend so much time talking about her because she's that good. And that character is so good. She's my favorite character of the year. She's one of my favorite characters of all time. Not just female, forget that. One of the best characters I think created in gaming. All really, again, from this game. I don't really think Innocence is something you build off of, but I don't think Innocence massively helps her become like one of the greatest characters out there. I think this game is the one that does it. So from that perspective, she's incredible, and she doesn't do it alone. Now, she is, in my opinion, far and away the best character in this game, but every supporting character, and I don't even want to say Hugo, because Hugo's kind of a main, right? But there are a lot of supporting characters like Lucas, right? These are all incredible characters. Visually, they're stunning, but also the impact that they have on the story and their relationship with each other is awesome. And then you also have Hugo and that brother-sister relationship. I mean, maybe I'm a sucker for, father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter, like anything that has to do with relationships of family members. I do believe I'm probably a sucker for, and that's okay. I mean, in my opinion, it's my video, so I really think they nailed it in terms of the sister-brother. And I'll say it like that, right, because you're playing most of it. You play as Hugo a little bit, but really, again, Amicia carries the whole thing. You're playing the most of the game as her. That relationship between her and Hugo and the way the story goes. Now, the story I do think is phenomenal, okay? I think there's several beats in this game that are like unbeatable. They're shocking. They're like jaw-dropping. Characters are being killed off or, whatever happened, what is happening in this game. I won't spoil too much. I will say this. There is something with this story that does bug me even to this day, and I feel like it hurts if you think about it too much, but if you don't think about it that much, it's not that big of a deal, and it's tough to say without spoilers, but the whole game leads to something, let's say, about halfway through the game, and then by the end of the game, with how the ending actually is, which is just a gut punch. The ending in this game is phenomenal and needs to be seen and played, okay? But once you beat the game, and you think about, wow, that middle, 6 hours of this game, was it necessary? Because we were building towards something, and then it completely fell apart. Now, if I don't think about it too much, or, maybe I'm just not thinking about it the right way, right? I'm not seeing it right. If you think about it one way, it's like, well, that's kind of the way these things go. Things fall apart. It's not a fairy tale story. You may learn something and say, man, we have a chance to do this, and it fails. It catastrophically fails. That, most games, you lead up to something, there's this fairy tale thing at the end of the tunnel. It's like, oh, that's the end goal, and everything's going to be okay. We just got to do that thing, and you do it, right? You do it. In most games, you do it. For this game, no, that doesn't actually happen. You build up, you learn a lot of stuff, you have chances, and then a lot of things fail. A lot of things completely fail, and that leads to consequences. Huge, and again, at the end of the game, the biggest consequence you can think of, gigantic consequences. How many games do that? And that's, again, something that stuck with me, where it's like, again, I don't know if, because the game's long. The game is like 16, 17, 18. It's a long game, okay? Whether you rush through it or you're taking your sweet time, it's a long, maybe it can get upwards of 20 hours. And then when you think about it, you're like, well, maybe you could, do you shave off 6, 7 hours because it didn't lead to anything? But it kind of did. Again, the theme of the game, it kind of did. There was hope for your character. It's an arc. Your characters had hope. They had a plan, things were going a certain way, and then they weren't. And that's a general direction that may happen in life. So I think it nailed it. I mean, I'm dead serious. The only thing, let's talk about the only thing that maybe wasn't as spectacular as the rest of the stuff, which is probably the combat / gameplay. Now, I think it was kind of mixed, because I think actually at its best, there were some like open playgrounds of going around and taking out enemies, let's say, that were phenomenal. There's some really well-crafted areas in this game. The ability for Amicia to use a lot of different weapons, right? Or just the being able to pick what you want to do, right? It's a little bit more open than it was in Innocence. I like that a lot. And a lot of levels, it works really well. And then a lot of levels, it doesn't work so well. There are some levels that I personally got through out of sheer luck. I didn't have enough ammo, or I was trying to be sneaky, and then somebody saw me and I just kind of bolted for the door because there's like 15 enemies on my tail and I can't possibly take them all out, which I like. I like the idea that, again, you are not unbeatable. You have to be very smart. You have to take them out kind of fractured away from each other. You're not going to be able to take on 10 people rushing at you. There are actually a couple times where you have to do that, which is a little weird, but when you're in the main gameplay, when you go into an area, there's 5, 7 enemies, and there's rats you can use, and there's fire to extinguish. You're not going to be able to take them out all at the same time, and that's purposeful, and I think actually that's very, very clever. And sometimes it works really well. Sometimes you do have to kind of get lucky, or I got lucky personally, and things worked out the way I wanted to, or I had a plan and it completely fell apart, so I just bolted for the door and I made it to the door in time to do the cutscene, right? And so I would say it's not bad. The gameplay in this game is not bad at all, because I think at its best, it's actually incredible, but at its worst, it is very frustrated. Like, I died many, many times. I got visibly upset. My wife was actually playing along with me, like we were helping each other. Because remember, I got it early. So, while, oh my God, Alex, your ego is so big. Yeah, thank you. One other negative to that, though, is that I had no guide. If I was stuck, I was stuck, right? If you're playing it early, there's nothing to reference. So my wife and I, and there's puzzles in this game. There's many puzzles. There's many, tough areas. I'm not the greatest gamer in the world, and you're playing it when nobody else is. So, like, you're kind of stuck if you do get stuck. And so, there are some times I got very frustrated. So, at its worst, it got frustrating. At its best, it was very good. But again, that's the gameplay. And if that's the weakest part of the game, is something that half the time is incredible and the other, not even the other half. Maybe like 10, 20% is frustrating, 20, 30 more percent is fine, and then 50% is awesome. If that's your weakest part of the game, you're looking good. You know what I mean? You're looking real good. And then when you have the story that really is good, I love the time period, like I love the setting, I love the architecture of the building, like everything in this game looks good. It feels like the time period it's supposed to be. The characters are excellent, the voice acting, the arcs that these characters go on. It is a phenomenal game. And I said it in the ranking video, it's my game of the year, and I would like to, even on my own time, like look back. I want to look back at like the last 10 years and say, what's my game of the year for each of them? I wonder where Plague Tale Requiem would stack up, because I don't just think it's the best game of this year. This is one of my favorite games of all time. And, modern day gaming, you don't get too many of those. There's not that many games that come out that you could say, well, compared to my all-time faves, where do they line up? I don't know how many there has been the last like 3-4 years. Like the best games of last year, do they really hold up against the best games of other years? Last year was a pretty weak year at the top. Overall. But you know what I mean? So where does Plague Tale lie? I hope it lies pretty high. I feel like it will as well, because I just love this game so much. And the fact, final thing, this game's on Game Pass. Now, I got it on PlayStation because of the code, but you literally, my game of the year, a full-price game, a 18-hour game, a AAA game really made by not a AAA team. Like, it's a smaller team that's making a gigantic game. All that for free if you have Game Pass. It's ridiculous. And I'm not here to like sell the riches of Game Pass and to sell you on it. I'm literally just saying the value that I think this game is worth, and it's $0 if you have Game Pass. It's absolutely ridiculous. So play Innocence, play Requiem. I do feel actually pretty good about myself that I saw in the comments of my Plague Tale Requiem. I did a whole review of this game as well. This is kind of like a part 2 almost at this point. I saw a lot of people that say, hey, you convinced me to do it, and like I'm going to play it now. That feels good, but also like I genuinely mean it. I love this game, and I hope you do too. And I feel pretty confident if we're somewhat alike in terms of what we play, you and I, the dear viewer. I think you're gonna like this game. I really do. So Let me know what your game of the year is. Let me know what you think about, my game of the year. Get all mad that it's not Elden Ring or God of War, all that stuff in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I'll see you all on the next one.